guess what time it is? It's Ren Plat time, baby. Pokemon Renegade Platinum is probably one of the more popular ROM hacks out there, and in my opinion, definitely the best DRAYANO hack for a very good reason. It's such a fun game with so many options, so many battles, so many awesome changes and really good quality of life stuff. It's such a popular game that so many people have played and so many people have Nuzlocked it, especially in the Twitch community. It's really popular there. But I'm going to take things to the next level, even further beyond. I am going to do a hardcore plus Nuzlocke, which is a hardcore Nuzlocke but even harder, and I'm going to be seeing how far can I get into Renegade Platinum with this rule set, deathless, without losing a single Pokemon. One death equals reset. That's right, I'm actually doing this. It makes all these stupid Nuzlocks on YouTube, these fucking baby core minus, look absolutely insignificant in comparison, which it is. I will say that DRXX, my boy on Twitch, he has actually done this on Renegade Platinum. It took him a lot of tries and a lot of failures, but he actually did beat Renegade Platinum on Hardcore Plus without losing a single Mon. And on Blaze Black, which is definitely a harder game, he made it to the Elite Four twice, but failed, but got very close. But this will be my very first attempt of doing this in Renegade Platinum. I would definitely try this again. I think it's actually a very fun challenge, and it doesn't require that much planning, despite what you think, because I'm so knowledgeable at this game, and I'm such a big brain. It was very fun, and I would recommend this. In this video, I will be showing you what happened in my first challenge run, but it will also act as a strategy guide for you guys. I will tell you guys what was the optimal playstyle for me and what I would have done differently to optimize my run. Because the first half of the game is actually very easy. You only have to dodge like maybe a few crits if you mess up, and there are cheese strats for like most of the fights in the game, even on Hardcore Plus Nuzlocke rules. So before I get into this challenge, let me specify what Hardcore Plus is for those of you who don't know. So you all know what Hardcore Nuzlocke rules are, standard. But Hardcore Plus, there are extra restrictions that makes this so much harder than it already is. First of all EVs will be removed from the game. You can no longer gain any EVs. All Pokemon will now give 0 EV values, and you just can't gain any. That makes a humongous difference, because as you know in Ren Plat, once you get to Celestian Town, you can just get a buttload of EVs, and EVs makes this challenge like almost non-existent. They do kind of break the game a little bit. Like, the second big change is that you are not allowed to use setup moves at all. Apart from like weird jank like fucking Ancient Power, Encore is allowed, but Substitute is not allowed. Anyone who's played even like a slight amount of experience of Renegade Platinum, that Substitute is so broken, it just abuses the AI so much, and you can literally trivialize every single boss battle with it. Same with like Dragon Dance, particularly Gyarados. That is just not going to be allowed, and there won't be a Shiny Claws. But apart from that, pretty much anything is fine. So with that done, let's actually start this challenge. So, the big important part of the game, the starter. Now, in reality, all 3 starters, contrary to what people might think, are all very good. All 3 of them. Piplup as well. People think it's bad, but it's really not, and I'll explain why in a second. But for me, I would say you get 2 of the 3 starters anyways from the Sinnoh region. But the starter that you get from Professor Rowan, you can save state to really optimize that starter, which is what I do. I do that in most Nuzlocks. I just keep resetting, or sometimes I just peaky hexing an Ivy from an Ivy randomizer reporter to make it consistent. So I always get a starter that's really good, with really good IVs and natures. With that in mind, I would say that Turtwig for me is definitely my favourite choice, and I would recommend that for you. Always get Shell Armor. Do not ever settle for Turtwig with Overgrow. This Turtwig here has absolutely incredible IVs. They're like 24 at minimum, and the rest are like above that. And it has impish nature, which is definitely the best nature. You could go for careful in some cases. You don't need adamant. Defense is everything, especially in a run like this. My win condition for most of the battles was defense and stall, not like hyper offense and attack, so defense is king. With shell armor, it's so important. Anyone who has played Emerald Kaizo knows that shell armor is probably the best ability in the game, and especially if you know how to combine it with things like Gyarados, like the Donphan Gyarados core in Emerald Kaizo, you know that you can really abuse the hell out of not being crit. And you can actually abuse this even further beyond with the fact that you get Protect, Leftovers, and flipping Leech Seed, which is also one of the best defensive moves in the whole game. Turtwig is just incredible. Another really nice thing is that you literally never lose the first rival battle with Turtwig. It's very, very hard. As long as you use Withdraw, as long as you don't get your defense lowered too much, you almost always beat the Chimchar, I mean. With that being chosen, you do get a choice of one of the other two Sinnoh starters. Now, they're both very good. I would say pick the one that has the best IVs and natures. Chimchar, you really want Iron Fist, but to be honest, if it's got really good IVs and natures, you can definitely pick a Blaze one. And Piplup, I think, is really good because water typing is a really, really good defensive typing. It walls out so many things. It's got pretty good special defense. Its special attack is really high. It gets really good move coverage. And Yawn Protect is such a good combination. For example, you could even do stuff like combine it with Gyarados with Intimidate, and you could pivot on Azumarill, for example, and destroy it really easily. Empoleon's actually really underrated, but Monferno is very good. You do really want at least one fire type for Aaron. So for this, I picked Chimchar, but they're both very good options. But with that, the Nuzlocke can actually start now. For the first route, ideally, you really want to get either Bidoof or a Nidoran, because they make work so much easier, and there's very good early game mons in general. I get Starly, however. It's a good mon. Like, later on, is good. The thing is, early game, you just never use it. But there are better options. It's also kind of annoying because I didn't get Bidoof or Nidoran in this route. Luckily, I do get Bidoof in the next route, so at least that's very good for Roark. But Rivalry Nidoking can just trivialize Roark, it's pretty funny. But that's not so bad. Pick up the free Eevee from your mum, and this is potentially a very important encounter, though in this run I never actually used it that much. But Eevee is just obviously a very powerful mon. This has incredible defensive IVs, it's almost like perfect defensively, and it's got sassy nature. So it's not going to work that much as a special attacker or physical attacker, but as a defender like Umbreon, it's obviously amazing. And the best thing about this, something that's really important, definitely you need to consider, is that Umbreon and Espeon 2 always have Synchronize. So if you have a really good nature, like for example, a defensive nature like Bold, Impish, Sassy, Careful, to name a few, you really do need to take into account Synchronize, because being able to synchronize so many guaranteed broken encounters to make sure they get the perfect nature is so good. Like for example, Feebas in Munchlax, which are guaranteed. A very good mon. Then I get this flipping Sentret, which kind of sucks. Like, you could it could do some stuff for early game, but it's kind of irrelevant. Now, I set the level cap to 10. I know the level cap is actually 11, but I just set it to 10. And you need to be a little bit careful for some of these early game battles, but apart from that, you should be fine, really. Now, this is where the Nuzlocke really starts to branch out, and you get so many options, which is one of the things that makes this so fun. How you can play this game like 20 times and have a different experience every time. There's so much different shit you can get here. So first of all, you go into the trainer school and you get your egg. Almost all the baby Pokemon you get are very good. I think Togepi is absolutely the worst one because that conflicts with Togepi that Cynthia gives you. But there's literally no bad Pokemon egg here. Until I realised that my egg was flipping Mantike. Ugh. Like, yeah, later on you could evolve it and it's actually not bad, but it's not going to do anything for a while. It's kind of annoying. Almost all the baby Pokemon you get from the eggs are really good. Now I get access to a fishing rod and actually delay one of the fishing areas, but the other one I go and I get Horsey now. This is potentially a massive encounter. Unfortunately, mine did not have Swift Swim, so it's really not that useful. With Swift Swim, Kingdra is absolutely incredible early game. It's probably one of the better encounters you can possibly get, but that's unfortunate. Then I go to the next grass area, and luckily I get Weedle. It's really, really good. And the best thing is that it evolves into Beedrill. It gets adaptability with its stat buff. Beedrill is insane in this game. It's so good for Gardenia. It one-shots every fairy type in the game, basically. Such a good encounter. It's also really good for dupe manipulating the Munchlax, so I'm very happy with that. Then I go into the cave in the Ravage Path, and there's actually a Repel manip you can do at level 8, which basically guarantees Geodude or Zubat. They're both very good encounters. Zubat you really want. It's probably one of the more important encounters you can get early game, so I'm really happy with that. Then last of all, go get your Kanto starters, and I just pick the best one. I do look at their IVs. Unfortunately, none of them were that good, but I would say for this, Bulbasaur was probably the best one. Its moveset and defensive capability does make it very, very nice. So I would recommend that more often than not. You could definitely pick Squirtle, especially if it gets Rain Dish, because that will become Torrent. But just pick whichever one's best for you. Now, the first rival battle's here, and he's usually okay. I will say his Munchlax is really annoying. I gave my Horsey a Scope Lens and it was luckily able to one-shot the Starly with a crit. I swear to Christ, this game absolutely just... I feel like DRAYANO might have accidentally increased the crit rate for this game, because crits happen so often in this game, it's kind of crazy. The Munchlax is like the only annoying thing, but the best thing to do is to probably just lure it with stuff. Then I usually use Turtwig on it, because it's not going to be used against the other two mons anyways. And you can potentially get some kind of fighting type mon or a really good physical attacker and just deal with it that way. But it should be fine, really. Then Rival's Chimchar does basically nothing, because you're always going to have at least one water type, and that should be more than enough to handle it, so that's pretty easy. The encounter after that, I get Lotad. This is actually a really solid encounter, actually. It gets Swift Swim and Rain Dish, so it's a very good mon for Rain, which you will want to do late game, but pretty good moveset. Is a really useful mon in general, so I'm quite happy with that. You could potentially get early game Ludicolo if you really wanted to, but you do miss out on some good moves, so you don't have to do that. But yeah, the option's there if you need it. What I do is I delay some of my encounters, then I get the Moonstone to evolve my Umbreon, so I have Sassy Nature, so I can go about and start synchronizing Sassy on a lot of mons. I get Whismur, which really sucks. I mean, this Whismur actually had really good IVs with Sassy Nature, which is actually quite good. So it's a really good flipping Exploud. But it's still an X-Blade, which isn't very good. I get the Beldum, and this had really good IVs in Lax Nature, and it gets Iron Fist, so I was really happy with this Beldum. Then I get a Rhyhorn, which is also a really good encounter that you want to get. But I would actually recommend delaying Route 205 for the Honey Tree anyways, because you really want to get early game Munchlax. Then I go into Oreburgh Gate, and the good thing is that I've already got Zubat, so I don't need to worry about encountering that. But I managed to get Riolu. This encounter is so good early game. The best thing is, you don't actually need adaptability for this thing to be a complete beast. You literally don't need it. It completely destroys like some of the early game boss battles, regardless of ability. So this is such a good mon. You don't actually need it though. Like really, you can definitely do the early game more than easily enough without it, but it's still such a good mon to have, and if it does have adaptability, then you can definitely continue using it until late game. But yeah, very nice. So that's pretty much everything done before the first gym. Now, the first gym is upon us, and I edge up some of my mons, but it's not too necessary. I do some strategies here, which a lot of other people don't actually do that much. I do the standard Monferno lead, and I taunt the Nose Pass, so it can only attack with Shockwave and can't use Thunder Wave or any of that stuff to mess me up. Then I go into Ivysaur, and I really like Ivysaur as a defensive support mon. I use it to Sleep Powder and Leech Seed the Nose Pass. Then what I do is I go into Turtwig, and Turtwig kind of just goes off. A good thing to do is make sure you bait out a potion as well before sending out Turtwig, so you can't use a potion later on, but Turtwig is just incredible. It really is. Make sure the nose passes asleep so it can't paralyze it. Like, the fact that Turtwig has really high physical defense with Impish Nature and it's really good IVs, even though it's an unevolved mon and it cannot get crit, means that it just completely destroys like a good chunk of Rourke's team. It completely destroys Geodude, Onix, and Larvitar, which makes the battle so much easier. You only really need to worry about the Cranidos, and the Bond Sleeve doesn't do that much. Now, I was able to take out the Cranidos by switching in Lucario and just destroying it, but I'm pretty sure Beldum could just do the same job anyway, which is guaranteed anyways. But once Cranidos goes down, the battle is pretty much over at this point. With a Turtwig strategy, you should win easily enough without losing a single mon. You shouldn't even have to risk any crits or anything. It's pretty easy enough. Moving on, not that much of note happens. The double battle is usually a little bit pesky, but with Lucario and Ivysaur, like, nothing happens in it. Here you do get several encounters before the next boss battle, which can be quite important. The Honey Tree I get Seedot. This is actually a very good early game encounter for Gardenia. I then go to the other Honey Tree at Valley Windworks, and this is potentially a very important encounter because you could get Munchlax in this tree, so make sure you're synchronizing your Sassy Nature, but the other encounters are also pretty good. You can get Slackoff and Caterpie, and both of those can be guaranteed if you do the Honey Trees in a very specific order. Unluckily I get Aipom, which kind of sucks, but oh well. You'll get Munchlax eventually. Then go get your Johto starters and pick the best one. Fortunately, Cyndaquil is usually the best with adaptability, but mine didn't have that. I picked Totodile. It had Bold Nature, max HP and defense IVs, and Intimidate, so a really good physical defender. So very nice mon to have. But then after that, you can go prepare for the next boss battle, and this, it could be a little bit annoying, but for me it was okay. So the lead Zubat just gets destroyed by Beldum, that's easy enough, but this does bait in Purugly, which is the only real threat on his team. There are several ways you can get around it. It almost always goes for Fake Out turn 1, so you can easily use that to just pivot in an Intimidate user or just go into like a Rock type. You can also get leftovers at this point in the game, so you can sort out quite easily. I do pivot between Rhyhorn and Croconaw with Intimidate, and Rhyhorn should be able to handle this. It was kind of annoying how the AI kept switching out the Purugly, which kind of just postponed the inevitable, but this strategy definitely works. Bronzong's usually not a problem. In the Yanma, I can just take out the Lucario, but Purugly just goes down eventually anyways, like, especially once you intimidate it, it's really not going to be doing that much to Rhyhorn. And after a few intimidates, you can just use your Shell Armor Grottle anyways, since I'll just never get crit anyways. And the best thing to do is just bulldoze a Purugly until it can't outspeed anymore, and Hypnosis has a good chance of missing anyway, so if you use these strategies you should win easily enough. So moving on. Mira's next, and she's probably one of the easier boss battles in the game. Drifloon gets destroyed by like almost every dark or electric type. Magahita gets destroyed by so many things, but I just use Ivysaur. Wailmer can just get destroyed by Grottle. In Chansey can get destroyed by, like, for example, you could use Snorlax, or you could use Beedrill and one-shot it, or you could just use Lucario like I did. That's pretty much all there is to it. You just win easily. Now, Return of Force is next, and I would definitely recommend just using Repel while you're with Cheryl, then do your encounter. You could do the double encounter actually, but definitely wait until... If you do the double encounter, you'll need a way to take out all of Cheryl's mons, otherwise you won't be able to catch anything. But I would just recommend repelling and going for the single encounter. I get Bunnery, which has Scrappy, and it's also got really good IV, so Lopunny with max return is actually really strong at this point in the game, so I'm really happy with this encounter. I get more encounters like this Volbeat. Then in Eternal City, I did mess up, and I fished for the Magikarp, when really I shouldn't have done that. I should have saved this for the Porygon, as Trace is such an important ability and it's a really good mon in general. I should have just delayed and got the Magikarp somewhere else, but yeah. Gyarados is probably one of the best mons in this game, purely because of Intimidate and its good defenses. Then in next Honey Tree, I don't get Munchlax. I do get Slack Off. Synchronizing Sassy on it was a bit annoying, but yeah, you really want that, plus special defense Snorlax. Then the final, probably most important encounter of the whole game, or definitely one of them, is you fish in Mount Coronet for the guaranteed Feebas. Feebas is just incredible, it really is. It's useful for so many fights, purely because of its typing and moveset. The cringe thing was that I went to synchronize Sassy Nature, more like Sussy Nature actually. The Sassy Baka, am I right? Sorry for making you cringe. Actually, not sorry. But yeah, I went to synchronize Sussy Nature, and the Feebas turned out to be flipping naughty. Like, one of the worst natures. At first, I was absolutely raging at this. But in reality, this actually does not matter that much. The reality is, I would say, in Renegade Platinum, is that Milotic is better as a physical defender than a special defender. I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? But the reality is, in terms of special defenders, Snorlax is like absolutely the best special defender in the game. It's not even close. Apart from Blissey, which I don't even know if I'm going to allow Blissey in this game. That might be a little bit too disgusting. Snorlax is going to take down almost all special attackers anyways. Milotic is almost always used to counter physical threats. It's really good against fighting and dark types. And there's so many of those threats, like Sharpedo, Weavile, Honchkrow. You can Choice Scarf it and take out Infernape. That's where Milotic really shines in general in this game. And that's how other people use it in Nuzlocke as well. So that's okay because physical defense is going to be more important anyways. So Naughty Nature, it didn't actually matter that much anyways. Then go to the snow area, and there's only one mandatory trainer, so that really should not be an issue. Then you get your encounter. Ideally you don't want to get Snover, that thing sucks. Snorunt is really good because you can get that Chatot from the trade, and traded Chatot is so good. But there are other good encounters as well. Sneasel is also really nice. But yeah, it doesn't matter too much. Then go clear out the rest of the trainers and clear out the trainers in the gym. Get the fossils and all that. Then get everything ready for the second gym. I do delay the old Chito for later on, but yeah. So I get my team ready for Gardenia, and I did make a few misplays in this battle, but there are definitely some strats you can do for this battle. What my strategy was is just lead off with Monferno to taunt the Blossom because I don't want it stun sporing. I then use this to send in Metang, and I go for Stealth Fox. I think Stealth Fox is really good. It's good to chip down the Roserade and the Tangela, so you can definitely get the one shot, and also break the Focus Sash from the Cherrim. The problem was, the big mistake was that I should not have used Metang and let it get damage. This is because Roserade is actually really hard to counter, and Metang is one of the very few counters for Roserade. But because I let my Metang get damage, I had to dodge a crit because of that. So that was a big mistake. Beedrill in this battle is pretty incredible, because Poison Jab with adaptability will always one-shot the Blossom. Just make sure it does not switch into Stun Spore. Beedrill actually one-shots almost everything on this team. But Roserade does come in. And because Metang took a lot of damage, it's not going to be able to take a Grass Knot crit. It does hit the Roserade really hard, but it wasn't enough. And the really, really tense thing in this battle was that I thought I would just destroy it anyways, really easily, but the AI actually used a Super Potion at a really weird range. The AI used Super Potion at about 30%, which I did not. The AI usually never does that, which is really weird. So I should have actually stayed in. This meant that I had no choice but to let Crobat dodge a crit, and thankfully it did dodge a crit. So I was really lucky. A strategy I would recommend to help you against Roserade would be to bring Shiftry. Because if you have Crobat or Beedrill, the Roserade will always go for Extra Sensory unless it sees killed with another move. So Shiftry can get a free switch in, use Fake Out to chip it down, then it's going to use Sludge or Dazzling Gleam. so you can always switch into Crobat. Then if you're able to KO the Roserade, you just KO. If you're not able to KO the Roserade, you predict Extrasensory again, you switch back into Shiftry, take no damage, Fake Out again, then just go back to Crobat, and you just do that until Crobat can absolutely one-shot the Roserade without the need to dodge a crit. So that's definitely my strat. If you have a good special defense Metang, especially if it's at full health, you switch in on Extrasensory, Metang will destroy the Roserade. But that's pretty much it. Apart from that, the rest of the battle is easy. Tangela can be a bit annoying, but Monferno with Flamethrower should just destroy the Tangela pretty easily. Then Beedrill can actually destroy pretty much everything on his team. So that's pretty simple stuff. It just goes on a rampage. And that's pretty much the battle over. Now the next Team Galactic boss is upon us, and this could be a little bit annoying depending on the encounters you have. Deleting Golbat is okay. What I do is actually pivot continuously between Gyarados and Metang, because it will always use Wing Attack on Gyarados and it will always use Leech Life on Metang, so that it barely even deals leftovers damage, so you just keep intimidating it. I actually thought I didn't actually do that much planning in this run. Like, I did plan for the boss battles, but I didn't actually look at any docs for the boss teams. So I actually was not fully aware what the AI's movesets were, and I thought the Crobat had Crunch, then it turned out it actually didn't, so Metang destroys it completely, which is actually really good to know for next time. Get your Stealth Fox up, that would be really helpful. The Skuntank is the main threat here. The good thing is that a lot of times it does like to go for Focus Energy or Torment, which usually wastes a turn. Ideally you want 2 mons that can take it, and you want something that can always take a crit pretty well. Rhyhorn is really good because it can use Bulldoze to slow it down, so pretty much everything can outspeed it, and the fact that it always takes a crit means it's pretty safe. I actually got a mini heart attack when I used Dig and the AI switched into Tangela, but yeah, the good news was that Rhyhorn was slower. If it was faster, I would have lost my Rhyhorn and ended the run. But yeah, Volbeat can just destroy the Tangela. That beats Sableye, and Sableye just cannot touch Lopunny at all, which is pretty funny. Then Rhyhorn is able to finish off the Skuntank. Unfortunately, Skuntank is quite a crit monster, so you do need to look out for that, but that aside, you should be fine. Get the Togepi egg from Cynthia, and you make sure you hatch it in the Cycle Shop, as that counts as its own location. Togekiss is one of the better encounters in the whole game, so I do Repel Manip to get Gligar, and thank God they had Toxic Heal. Such a good mod to have. Jesus, a lot of things. I go into Wayward Cave, and you could get guaranteed Gabite actually, but I said just go for encounter there, and I Repel Manip, and I was able to get a Sableye. Sableye is actually a very good encounter. Its typing makes it really good at countering a lot of things, and the fact that it gets Fake Out, Early Detect, and Sucker Punch makes it so useful against many threats, so Sableye is a very good mon to have. Now next up is a mirror battle. This can be really annoying, so you do have to plan for this, but if you have the right mons, you can definitely just cheese her. Beedrill, which is a guaranteed mon, is my favourite answer for the Togetic. With adaptability, it just always destroys it. Kadabra is pretty annoying, but what I do is I predict Psychic Move going to Umbreon, predict Dazzling Gleam going to Crobat, Expert Belt Crunch, KO. Now, Porygon is really annoying, and the big threat is that that thing can use Charge Beam, and you do not want to deal with that, so ideally you want some kind of ground type. Rhyhorn's pretty good because it also can resist Tri-Attack. Lucario is very good at just destroying the Porygon, and that pretty much just disposes of that threat. Then you only need to worry about the final Haunter, so like you could just use Umbreon for example, and that's a pretty easy win. Dawn Battle's also really easy. The Piloswine does absolutely nothing. The Beedrill comes in one-shots Clefable. Make sure that your Milotic is already paralyzed by the Clefable, so it won't use Thunder Wave again on Beedrill. Then I completely destroy the Lopunny by continuously pivoting Intimidate on Gyarados plus Grottle, then you just Leech Seed the Lopunny, then it just does not touch your Grotle anymore, so that's pretty easy. Then Prinplup, at this point in the game, it's not really threatening, so that's quite easy to handle. I think I just use Milotic and keep attacking it until it dies. So it's one of the easier boss battles. Like, get the big Shroomish, a really good encounter. Very nice. Now, I go for Aaron, and a lot of people say this is one of the hardest boss battles in this game. I would say it can be, but if you prepare for this properly, it's actually really not so bad. To show how easy this is, I actually just walk in with 5 Mons because my strategy is so watertight, I just can't lose. If you have like Fortress, this becomes even more free. Basically, the strat is lead off with any kind of Stealth Rocker. Use your Zubat, which you should almost always have. Then just go ham with it. You 2-shot Dustox. Then Beautifly comes in. You always 1-shot that because it takes a lot of damage. Then Venomoth comes in. If you have really bad attack, like your Modest Nature, Venomoth could potentially take a hit. So you do need to be very careful about that. That means there's only 2 Mons left. One of them being Drapion, and this thing is a big threat, but Torterra is always able to switch in and destroy it. I give it Soft Sand, but I don't know if you even need to do that. Yeah, it goes for Sword Stance anyways. If your Torterra's at full health, you could actually stay in and just Earthquake the Scizor, then switch out if you want. You could definitely just go into Monferno, and you will always switch in and destroy the Scizor with Flamethrower. So that's really good. Pretty easy battle, really. Just do that strategy. All the Mons that I used here are basically guaranteed. So it's very easy to do. Ventima is next, and this is a pretty funny battle. It's probably like the longest. She's definitely doable. I would say the only real threat in our team is Gengar. Once Gengar goes down, you essentially win the battle unless you misplay bad. The big cheese in this battle is the fact that you have Torterra with Shell Armor and Captivate. Because you could do Captivate strats against Gardenia as well, but female trainers, usually their Mons are almost always female, so your males can just use Captivate, which is basically Special Charm, which is so good, and combined with Shell Armor, it's just incredible. It just gimps the opponent so hard, like the fact that they can just never crit you, and the fact that Torterra has Rest to recover from any potential Will-O-Wisps. Leech Seed just heal a boatload of HP. Humongous defenses as it is. Torterra potentially just never dies. You only need to worry about the Gengar, which is quite a threat. Umbreon is really good, as it could just tank hits from Drifblim all day and just continuously go -2 on the Drifblim. If you've played Emerald Kaizo, particularly, it's very similar to the Clamperl Gyarados strats that you use against Brawly, where you use Charm on Brawly or use Intimidate Loop, then you could just go into like Clamperl, which can get crit and just destroy a lot of his Mons that way. It's pretty similar. If you played Emerald Kaizo, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The good thing is that Drifblim likes to use Baton Pass, so like you make a special attack really low, then it Baton Passes into Miss Mages. Miss Mages could potentially KO like everything on my team with a crit, so I'm not going to risk it. I just go straight into Torterra at this point, which has Captivate also. Also, a good thing, make sure your Torterra is a male. That's really helpful. But I only have one attacking move. I probably should have had Seed Bomb instead of Earthquake. But because I only had Earthquake, I just Leech Seeded to Miss Mages, and I basically just sat there and did nothing because I couldn't actually attack it. And I didn't want to risk a crit on my other Mons, so I basically just sat there for like 20 turns and waited for Leech Seed to KO the Miss Mages. Like, it was dealing absolutely no damage. This got meme-tastic to the point where I voluntarily made my Torterra fall asleep out of boredom purely to preserve my PP. That is like a whole nother level of flexing. Just pretty meme-tastic. But yeah, Miss Mages goes down. Then Drifblim always comes in, so you just go back to Umbreon, you just Captivate it again. Then it'll probably just Baton Pass into something else. Gengar comes in, and this is actually really good. The fact that she brought out Gengar, she basically switched it in on Captivate, and now the Gengar is so weak that Torterra can just destroy it easily. So I'm really happy with that. Once Gengar goes down, the battle's basically over. Her other mons, apart from Drifblim, her other mons basically cannot touch Torterra at all. Dusclops just does nothing much in general and gets pummeled by Umbreon. Banette can only really attack with Shadow Punch and Sucker Punch, so normal types can really abuse that. But Umbreon destroys that as well. I shouldn't have let my Umbreon get burned, but it didn't even matter. Then I did potentially misplay quite badly. Because my Umbreon got burnt, I think a crit or a flinch from Drifblim would have actually been pretty bad. I didn't get crit and I just won anyways without any casualties. I think, yeah, that misplay aside, the battle was really smooth and easy. You just meme on everything, even Spiritomb. It does absolutely nothing to Torterra. This battle does actually get really boring, to be honest, with the strategy. It's just too good. Next rival battle, yeah, I'll just skim over it quickly. You could destroy Staravia with a variety of things. Heracross almost always gets destroyed by Crobat. Monferno gets destroyed quite easily by, like, Gyarados. The Snorlax you beat with Torterra, with Leech Seed, and that's pretty much it. Moving on. Now, one of the weirder battles in this game is a double battle against a Galactic boss in Mr. Backlot with your rival. This can be really annoying, and it can be quite RNG reliant, depending on what your rival does and how the AI acts. It's really annoying because the rival, if he switches in the wrong mon at the wrong time, all of his mons potentially get one-shotted by Wigglytuff or Bronzong. And the AI will almost always just destroy Staravia turn 1. So that can be quite annoying. Luckily, the rival sends in Snorlax, which can just wall the opponents. And I use Torterra to just wall them as well. You can literally just Leech Seed Bronzong and Wigglytuff, and you take almost literally no damage. So you basically just win that way. Once the first two mons go down, particularly the Wigglytuff, the battle gets a lot easier. Especially if Snorlax is out on your rival side. You could basically just focus on the left side of the screen. If Bronzong is Leech Seeded, you should be fine for HP. Like, at this point, I could even Leech Seed Espeon and use Umbreon to take it down. Then the final mon, Raichu, just does nothing to Torterra. So once Mr. Backlot goes down, you basically just gang up 2 versus 1 on the Bronzong side, and then you basically just cannot lose at that point. That's usually the best strategy for double battles in general. Now we get so many more encounters for the next gym. I was really happy with the Porygon, but really unhappy as I really underestimated it and was not able to catch it because its catch rate is really low. The thing is Charge Beam, so it can set up on you like crazy. Definitely, I should prepare for some more, bring some ground types for it. Bring a way to like incapacitate it. Yeah, unfortunate. You can actually get Chansey, I think almost literally guaranteed in next route, but I think I kind of banned Chansey anyways because it's a little bit too strong. Then do your Honey Tree encounter in the rain route because you can get Munchlax there. I don't get Munchlax. That does mean that it's now guaranteed in next route because I've got all the other encounters that you can get from that tree. So that's really nice. Now the only real threat is these two mandatory cool trainers before going to Veilstone. They can be quite strong. Definitely battle them one-on-one. They only have 3 mons though, but they can be really tough, so make sure you prepare for them. If you get close to the level cap and you bring 6 mons that can handle them, you should be fine. I remember their teams all by heart. I didn't even need to look at docs for this, which just goes to show how big my brain is. My galaxy cranium. Alright, this is the last tree where you can get Munchlax, and I do get the Munchlax. Oh baby. The really cringe thing was, I synchronized Sassy, but the Munchlax was modest. Ah. Honestly, this didn't actually matter too much. I argue that physical attack on Snorlax, it's not that important. Even though this has really bad physical attack IVs and modest nature, it still hits pretty hard. And it doesn't really matter anyways. You'd still destroy most special attackers anyways. It has really good special defense IVs, that's what matters, but the sassy nature would have made it a lot better. But as long as Snorlax has above average special defense IVs, it should almost always be fine from special threats. I think the only thing I could threat it is like some Alakazams with Focus Blast, and like the Palkia and Dialga from Distortion World, but apart from that, Snorlax is so invaluable. Maylene is next, and she can be a little bit scarier than other gym leaders. She's actually okay, but I did misplay quite a bit. Because I didn't look at the docs, I didn't actually know what her exact moveset was for some of their mons, so that did kind of mess up my plays. In hindsight, I would have actually been able to do this a lot better. So luckily, because I've got Sableye, what I do, lead off with a Gyarados, Intimidate, predict Fake Out, go to Sableye, then I could just Fake Out and Shadow Ball and just take it out pretty easily. And you even have Detect and Shadow Sneak, which is really good for leftover stall. Now, in comes Machamp, and this thing is actually really scary, but its moves from my memory are Protect to get the Toxic Orb off for the Guts boost, Close Combat, Payback, and Thunder Punch. So I know that on Sableye, it will always use Thunder Punch, especially because the Machamp is faster. So knowing that, I just go into Torterra. Then from here, I predict Close Combat, so I go into Sableye, and you can kind of just use this to stall out. Until you can also use Fake Out and Detect to stall out the leftovers and the Toxic Stall even more. The strategy did work, because you do not want to take Close Combat from Guts Boost and Machamp. Until I realised that sometimes the AI in this game can be weird, and the Machamp just decided to pay back my Sableye anyways, instead of using Close Combat for some reason. Like, it could have Close Combated my Torterra, but it chose to use fucking Payback instead. Like, I'm sorry, but sometimes the AI makes absolutely no sense. I had to dodge a crit here because of that. That was really annoying. And I was able to finish off the Machamp by fully Toxic Stalling it, but yeah, that kind of messed up my plans a little bit. And Fernape is a bit scary. I probably could have brought a better counter for it, like probably Choice Scarf and the Lotic. But how I beat it anyways was I just pivot between Gyarados. On the Rock Slide, I go to Torterra. Then on Torterra, it goes for Fire Punch, I go back to Gyarados. Then once Infernape's at -2, Torterra can just Earthquake the Infernape and beat it pretty easily. So it's simple enough. Fire Punch did a surprisingly small amount of damage, even though it's at -2. Now, Toxic Rogue is here, and I did not know what this thing's moveset was. Unfortunately, it had Ice Beam, which I was kind of scared of, and because I switched in Crobat, I did not have a good way of beating this, because I know that this thing also has Sucker Punch, which can take out my Crobat at this range. Had I gone through Gyarados pivot first, then Crobat on Poison Jab, I would have beaten the Toxic Rogue, but because of this, I particularly had to dodge under crit, which is really bad. If I went back, and now that I know what Toxic Rogue's moveset was, I would have done this a lot more easily, but oh well. Then Gallade, you could just beat it quite easily by using Togekiss. You could Thunder Wave it, then use Charm, then once it's charmed down, it basically just can't touch Torterra and it's a free win anyways. Then final Lucario, you can always beat it with a plus speed nature Focus Sash Infernape. That could just switch in and one-shot it, so that finishes off pretty easily. So that battle, I had to dodge, I think, 2 or 3 crits, which was, but at least once I did that, the battle was over. If I did this again, I would definitely be able to do this a lot more easily, but it's done now anyways. There's a few mandatory cool trainers who are a bit tough, but you only have to fight 2 of them. Then you could just go fight your rival. There's also Safari Zone and a few other encounters. I got a bit unlucky with my encounters, but oh well, I've got a lot of good stuff anyways. But the next rival battle is upon us, and this really isn't too bad if you have a good strategy. So my strategy for Staraptor, that thing is an absolute monster. You could definitely lead off with like a faster Electric type and KO it, or some kind of choice card for, which I didn't have that much. But what I did was I did a Gyarados plus Rhydon pivot. So Gyarados, Intimidate, predict Double Edge or Brave Bird, go to Rhydon, then use Protect. You get Protect at this point. Protect with leftovers is probably one of the best moves in the whole game. You absolutely need it. Also great for PB stalling. You Protect, then you switch out to Gyarados, you Intimidate it again. So you basically waste 2 close combats from Staraptor. You basically rinse and repeat until Staraptor has no more close combats. Then Rhydon should almost always be able to just destroy it at this point. You could then just get off your Stealth Rocks, which is really nice. Unfortunately, you can get hit by a critical hit on... Even Rhydon takes a lot of damage from a crit, so probably a better way to do this would be to use like Shell Armor, Omastar, or some jank like that. Or you just need to get like a faster electric type. That's pretty much it. Breloom I basically just beat with Venusaur, as it resists its dual stab. And you could just one-shot it with Sludge Bomb. I don't know why it chooses to flipping Bullet Seed my Venusaur for some reason, which is really weird. But yeah, Breloom goes down anyways. Infernape is quite annoying, but what you can do is I go into Milotic, then I notice Thunder Punch. I even use Protect just to confirm this, because I don't actually look at what movesets they have. So I just pivot into Rhydon on Thunder Punch, then predict close combat, then you can just go into Crobat, outspeed, and easily destroy it, especially just -1. So it's pretty easy stuff. Snorlax, you just beat that with Torterra. You Leech Seed it and you win, basically. Heracross, with Stealth Rocks, my Crobat can always take it out with Fly. With Expert Belt. Even with the Flying Resist Berry, so that's very simple. Then you just need to worry about the final Azumarill, which is really not that bad to beat. I just use Torterra again. It doesn't have Ice Punch in its battle, so that's pretty simple enough. Gym Leader Wake is next. This one, he's actually okay, depending on what mons you have. Definitely make sure you can get rid of the rain. But I definitely, once again, made some misplays in this battle. Like, this was my first time doing this, so I will do this again, and I will definitely have better strategies for next time. But in this battle, you only need to worry about Gyarados. Once you have a way of taking out Gyarados, and you take it down, the battle is basically over. But if you don't have a good strategy for Gyarados, that thing will Dragon Dance, and it will destroy something on your team, and basically end your run. I definitely could have prepared for this better, but the start of the battle is usually very simple. There are lots of ways you can handle Quagsire, but Breloom's really good. Make sure you focus Sash it. Last thing you want to do is die to a crit. Toxicroak with Poison Heal would make this a lot better than Mind Technician. But you can just Spore, then Sunny Day, then just go for a Grass move. Unfortunately, the Quagsire waking up turn 2 was really annoying and kind of screwed my plans. Ideally, you want Breloom to still be at full health, so it's still got his Focus Sash. And you can just put the Gyarados to sleep, then destroy it that way, but I couldn't do that anymore. I did not have a good way of handling the Gyarados. I really panicked here. Togekiss could not handle this thing either. I think I had to dodge a crit on it with Ice Fang, and this got really bad. Like, Ludicolo was not able to handle it because of the Hyper Potion. And thank God Gyarados was able to bounce it and get a Power Hack. That was so lucky. There was definitely a good chance I would have lost here. Because of that Power Hacks, Milotic was just able to come in and beat it. And Milotic was most likely dead to a crit at this point. I had like a mini heart attack when I realised that Gyarados still outsped me, even though it was paralysed. But yeah, I definitely should have had a better strat for this. What I would do probably, if I were to do this again, I would probably bring like Shell Armor Lapras with Growl. So you just keep on growling to negate the Dragon Dance. And Lapras basically resists its only water move and its ice move, then its other move is Crunch. Or you could use like a Shell Armor Mon or a Mon with Charm to weaken it quite a lot. It does have an Electric Resist Berry, so it takes most electric type moves. Ideally, if you have like Focus Sash full health, you can support. So there are definitely ways you can handle the Gyarados. I thought the Gyarados had bounce, but the fact that it did not have bounce meant that things like Milotic actually walled out really well, so I should have done that instead. But thankfully the Gyarados is down. And once the Gyarados is down, you basically win easily. Ludicolo gets absolutely trivialized by Snorlax. Use Yawn, Protect, Slack Off in return, and you could just do whatever the hell you want on it. Even crits won't hurt you that much. You just win. Poliwrath gets completely trivialized by Milotic. It barely touches it. I use Aqua Ring with Protect, and you just heal up so much HP, it's really funny. Sharpedo also just barely touches Milotic. Hell, even if Float Cell doesn't do that much to it. It just goes to show that, like, Gyarados aside, this team is really easy to beat. So yeah. Thankfully, I did not get unlucky. This is when we're like firmly into the mid game. Before the next series of boss rushes, there are a few mandatory cool trainers and shit. And some of them are really tough. Make sure you dodge like that double battle. And be very careful for the mandatory battles here, as some of them are actually surprisingly tough and you can take you off guard. Be very careful. This Dodrio, for example, is really pepica. Thank God I was able to beat it. My Togetic took a crit and barely hung on, but I was able to make it through. But this was where the run ended. Against Dawn. I was really happy on my first try ever doing this, and considering I really did not spend that much time planning, I kind of just blasted through the game really quickly, and my strategies weren't even as efficient as they could have been, so for a first attempt I was actually really happy with this. I definitely could have done better. There was some bad luck in this battle, but oh well, you learn from your mistakes and sometimes stupid stuff happens. So Dawn, I know she leads up with Alakazam, and I know it's not Inner Focus because I think now its abilities got changed to Magic Bounce and Synchronize. So Sableye can always just fake out and Sucker Punch Alakazam. Easy enough. Clefable is here, and this will always see kill with Moonblast, so Beedrill could just come in and always one-shot the Clefable. Easy enough. Flareon. This thing is really annoying. I don't know why I did this, but I switched in Gliscor and Flare Blitz because I really wanted its Toxicroak to go off. Dawn heals you before this battle, so you cannot Toxicate before it. I had to dodge a crit. This was really stupid of me. I then switched into Gyarados to take another Flare Blitz and Intimidate it. The really annoying thing is that this Flareon, it does have Will-O-Wisp, so if it Will-O-Wisps you, you could be in big trouble. You do not want that. It does actually try to Will-O-Wisp my Gliscor, which, because it's poisoned, it doesn't work, so it's really good. I was able to take out a Flareon, but I was really annoyed when I found out that Flareon actually outsped my Gliscor. I did not think that. But the Mamoswine here, this thing was a really big threat. Mamoswine is one of the bigger threats in this entire game because it's really hard to counter effectively. I would say one of the best counters is actually Shell Armor Kingler, but I don't have that. Also, what makes Mamoswine really annoying to beat is that its moveset is actually somewhat random. Sometimes against Gyarados, it will randomly decide to use Avalanche, so you can't even pivot with Gliscor. It actually works in your favour when I have Feraligatr with Intimidate. It randomly decides to Avalanche me instead of Earthquaking, but sometimes it also Stone Edges on my water types as well, so switching in Gyarados can be quite risky. Now, Feraligatr was really good defense, and after several Intimidates, looked like it was just going to easily beat the Mamoswine. But then Dawn switched out her Mamoswine. The AI does make some really weird predictions that was actually kind of annoying. In Empoleon you can easily beat with Snorlax. Pretty easily. Then you just destroy it. Because you could just swallow Empoleon as much as you need to. But now Mamoswine is back in, and this is back to neutral attack, which is really annoying, so I have to go through the trouble of intimidating it down again. It definitely looks like I can beat this Mamoswine, for sure. Until I realise that Dawn has another Hyper Potion. Every other boss battle until now only has one healing item, but this one has two. That messed me up completely because on Hyper Potion I went for Protect just to get some extra leftover recoveries so I can then Aqua Jet the next turn. But no, Dawn decided to use Hyper Potion for some reason. I really don't like the AI using healing items. It's so annoying. Even like other ROM hacks, it's just stupid, and I just don't like it. That's one thing I do like about Emerald Kaizo, how it took out healing items for everyone and not just you. Like, it still looks like I can beat the Mamoswine, right? But no, Aqua Jet is just short of KOing, and the Earthquake gets a crit. Ending the run. That, in the moment, I was really annoyed, really, because I lost because the AI decided to use a fucking Hyper Potion in a way that the other boss battles did not do it, and I feel like using items from your back is just really cheap and kind of annoying. But honestly, I did misplay quite a bit. I probably should have had other ways of beating the Mamoswine. I think the Flareon I kind of messed up against as well. But that is unfortunate, but honestly, this does happen. But I will do better next time. I'll definitely do a stream of this. So overall, I would say that Renegade Platinum, Hardcore plus 1 Death Equals Reset, is a really fun experience. I actually enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to doing this again. I would recommend this to you. And I don't think it's that hard, really. Like, I didn't do that much planning. I really didn't. I basically spent like a couple minutes at most planning for each boss battle, like, if even that. And I didn't even have to look at any docs for boss battles, so this is actually really fast to do also. It's just a very enjoyable experience. It just goes to show how crazy some Nuzlocks can actually get, and how doable Renegade Platinum actually is. But this is definitely taking Nuzlocking to the next level. So with that done, stay tuned for my next series of videos. I'll have many more videos on Nuzlocking coming out. Also stay tuned for my Twitch streams because I will be Twitch streaming this and hopefully I will make it to the Elite Four. But with that done, that's the video concluded. This is Ding Dong, signing out.